You got voice contrast going on there? Can you see?
Yes,
So we're good.
we are good to go.
Well, we're only a couple minutes. I think we'll start the morning. Start our meeting. We're only a couple minutes early here, but since everybody's ready, we'll call the meeting to order at 6:58 on April 22nd, 2022. Thank you all for coming. Any of the audience, would you like to be recognized and be on the minutes? Jay Gossett, Stan Ross, Chris Moritz, Troy Crawford, Miss Wilson. Yes, you'd like to be on the minutes? Richard Durr
Richard Durr, you got it. And Priscilla.
and Priscilla. That's everybody. Well, thank you all for attending. The first thing we'd like to do is call minutes. Council position number 1, Joe Armand.
Here.
Council position number 2, David Budrus.
Present.
Position number 3, Stephen Hardy.
Where are you trying to go with this?
Position 4, Peter Davenport.
Here.
And I just talked to Levi Shank on the phone, and the minute he gets out of school, he'll be here. So he's not here at the moment, but planning on attending. So the first thing on my agenda tonight is I hope we're going to talk to Sage Wilson about her intention and interest in the position of our treasurer. And at this time, I would turn the floor over to the council. If nobody has any objections. I did not get to follow through, David, with contacting Andrea this week. That was my intention, and this week has turned into what most other weeks have turned into.
A week from hell.
I wouldn't go that far. There's been plenty of opportunities for success this week. Some of them have been challenging, to say the least. But I think we've come out on top.
Good.
So, good evening. Would you like to get recognized and be on the minutes?
Sure. Hi guys, I'm Ashley. I'm the reporter from Odessa.
Okay. Welcome.
Okay, Sage?
Sage.
Would you like me to come up to the front row or anything?
That would be fine with us.
There's a hot seat right up
Oh,
there.
right up there?
No. Well, you can. Levi's not here yet, so.
We need to get the bright
Wherever
light
wherever
pointed
you
at
feel
your face.
comfortable, Sage.
Okay, I'll just pull the chair up a little closer.
Here I was gonna be chivalrous.
I appreciate it. It's the thought that counts.
So, before the council asks you any questions, is there anything you'd like to ask or bring to our attention?
I don't have any questions this far. I just want to make sure everybody has my resume and letter of intent. Wonderful.
Okay?
Oh, I guess if no one else is gonna lead off, then I will. Yeah, I'm trying to start by remembering, and for the sake of fairness, the questions that we asked the other candidate, to keep those mostly even. Have you held an elected position before?
I have not.
Okay.
Other than like in high school for FFA and things like that.
Okay.
But nothing as an adult, I should say.
And I'm looking to make sure I did not look over this here, other than I see later in your letter of intent, just community service, but anything else you'd like to say about what brought your interest of serving in this position?
Community involvement is a big portion of it for me, wanting to get back into Harrington with the closure of my branch. It was obviously, I felt very disconnected since then. I would like to get more involved here.
And have you worked with government audits before in your capacity with US Bank?
No government audits, no. Internal audits and RQA retail quality assurance, but never anything government-based.
Okay. Any other, and maybe this last statement just covered this, but just to make sure that we're specific, any government filing or reporting responsibilities?
No.
Okay. That might be it for me for the moment.
You have a broad range of talents, Sage. Where did you learn bookkeeping? Is it on-the-job training principally?
Yes, my mother was a bookkeeper, and so from when I was little and her working at home as a bookkeeper, I kind of learned from her filing and things like that as well. Bookkeeping also came from my time being married to a farmer. I did the books, not consistently, but when the primary bookkeeper was away, it was my responsibility to take care of them. So I wouldn't say on the job, but maybe kind of an occupational thing.
From mom.
Yeah.
Did you take bookkeeping in high school at all?
I took farm business management, which had a bookkeeping piece to it, but never a specific bookkeeping course.
Have you had any interactions with Mr. Cronrath, our current treasurer, to discuss the general responsibilities of this job or things to watch out for, any type of interaction between you and he at this point?
At this point, no, other than just in passing.
How long have you worked for US Bank?
This September will be 5 years.
I think that's in your letter, isn't it?
I believe my resume states that I was hired there in September of 17.
Anybody remember any other questions we asked the last candidate?
I've got a couple. One, I'm just curious, in your role in the bank, is there a regulatory requirement for like being bonded and stuff like that as a fiduciary or anything like that?
Me specifically, in the banker role, no.
Okay.
However, there is because I carry a notary license, so I am bonded for that.
Okay. And I didn't see it on here, but if I recall, you actually have served as the treasurer for the food bank, haven't you?
Secretary,
Secretary, okay, sorry.
and currently serving.
Okay. The only other question I have is, what's your availability and willingness to come to these council meetings at least monthly to present?
I would be available since it is after hours. The only conflict that I currently have is, of course, I am a single mom. So just as long as I had enough notice to make sure that I had coverage for childcare. My 8-year-old could sit here fine. My 5-year-old would not.
Okay. That is all I have.
Trying to think through, I think the rest of the follow-on questions that we addressed to the last candidate referred to some experiences that would not be applicable here. So
How did you hear about the job?
I was down here talking to Jerry.
I think I'm good.
I'm good. I'm covered. You're good.
I don't think I have any at the moment.
Okay.
Anything else you'd like to ask us or put out to the council?
Not at this time, other than if there's any other questions that come up, my contact information is on my resume.
Thank you for coming, Sage. We appreciate that.
Thank you, Sage.
For your time.
Very much.
And thanks for your desire to have more community involvement.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's good.
We've got a PDA update from Jay Gossett. Jay, you've got the floor.
It's a quick update. I think everybody should have a, 3 or 4 sheets of paper. I printed out a copy of the email I received from Avista. They have a program that we've applied to for free car chargers for electric vehicles. We had pursued
I don't know if you want that back.
We pursued other projects, radar, speed signs in town, trying to get funding for those, kind of fell through. We had started off the year, actually late last year, with a car charging project. At that time, we were looking at DC chargers, which was the quickest charging method for electric vehicles. Those systems run upwards of $28,000–$30,000. So we were quickly figuring out that that was gonna be difficult to do. So I contacted Avista to see if they had any programs that was available. And this spring, it came available. And so we're signed up with Avista. You see the email conversation I had with, I think it's Lisa Garrett with Avista, outlining the process for the chargers. We're going to they're 65 amp chargers. They're a level 2 charger, which a normal Tesla style vehicle, like an hour charge would be like 60 miles roughly. And we're going to they're going to provide 2 of those to us. I was contacted by their utility engineer. They work with this Covelco electrical contractors out of Spokane. They contacted me. I met him at the site, at the Town Square project site over here, and talked about the location of where the pedestals would go. They'd go at the end of the sidewalk across from the Opera House, right by the alley. That'd be the parking spots. But there'd be 2 spots there that would be probably designated for parking for charging. And the power would be supplied by Avista from the restroom at the site over there. At the we've
Town
got
Square.
a 200 amp service there now, and we both, after looking at it, decided we're going to put another 200 amp service on the side of that. So, because if you have 2 cars happen to be charging, and the electric hand dryer in the bathroom go off, or a heater or whatever go off, it might be too much for one panel, so they're providing a second 200 amp panel for that. The system is at no cost for the city. They're paying for all the utilities to be put in. I'm working with Jan Hoogstad out of Davenport with Avista on getting the power into the restrooms, and he's also the project manager for Avista on other car charging sites other than Lincoln County. They're gonna be putting some of the DC chargers we looked at before over in Sprague and other places around. So that was kind of, they pretty much told us that you're wasting your money, because we're putting some DC chargers in Sprague already, but that's on our schedule, but we'll be glad to put in these chargers for you guys free of charge. So we kind of jumped on that bandwagon. So that's our project for this year. I don't know if any questions or not, but it's pretty cut and dry. I think the only thing that would be left to be figured out is I think the meter charge, the basic meter charge for Avista is like $20 or $22 a month, and the PDA pick up those funding for that power bill. And he said if the chargers are used a lot, the power bill may be upwards of like $50. So that's kind of where we're at with that. We're putting they're providing us a sign with a QR code reader on it, so people can link to it and pay like a donation for their power they're using, and it would go directly to the PDA account for paying the power bill. So that's kind of, The other system that we looked at was nicer because you actually had to put a debit card in or a credit card in and actually pay for the service. But at 30 grand just to get the machine bought, that wasn't putting it in. It was also a 480 volt 3-phase system,
Yeah.
which is costly. We looked at, Vista was gonna have to change the pole out behind the, Gordon and Billy's place over here, put another pole in with different transformers on it. They've got a 3-phase to their building, but it's an older 3-phase and it wouldn't work with the, so this all kind of, it worked out, so, to the better, so. Anyway, the whole purpose of this was to kind of bring you guys up to, we're separate from the city, but we're kind of under the city. We have our own, we do our own deal, but we want to make sure you guys are up to speed of what's going on. So, if you have any questions or it comes up later or whatever, you can.
And I
Get 'em
forgot,
to-
when were they hoping to break ground?
Well, I'm working with those guys. I gotta get a site plan for that lot and, cause we moved the restroom from where it was on the site plan, the existing site plan, so I'm gonna have to redo that and to give him some measurements and sketch in where the current sidewalk is and will be, so we can get some, distance between point A and B where they'll be at, so they'll have a better understanding of how much, they'll pull the conduit in and have it stubbed in and be ready to go. So when we pour the sidewalk at the end of the project, it will come up right to the edge of the curb and gutter, and that's where the charging units will be.
Thank you.
Have we had any queries about electrical charging, Jerry?
I think we're trying to be proactive. We started this project off knowing that the current administration is really pushing electric vehicles, and that's kind of the way things are going. We're trying to get people, they can stay on I-90 and charge in Spokane and drive 300 miles and go around us, or they can charge in Sprague, but if we have any opportunity to get people to go, you know what, they've got a level 2 charging system in Harrington, I've heard they got a great coffee shop, or they got a really nice tavern, whatever. I mean, just get people in town, to visit the town,
Yeah.
come to town, and it's like they can plug in, walk around town for 30 minutes, go have coffee or lunch or whatever, and get 30 more miles or whatever, 60 more miles on their car and go down the road. It gives them the option of coming this way as opposed to burning up 60 miles to come through here and not stop in Harrington.
and have a beer.
Exactly.
That's right.
So that's kind of our main point. We know there's not a lot of electric cars on the road right now. There's people in town that have them, but they have charging ports in their home. We're just trying to get some of the people between point A and B to exit to point C and visit our town.
Did I hear you correctly say that the town will be compensated by voluntary contributions?
Well, what will happen is that there'll be a QR code there, and people, typically, like Davenport has a system, it's an older level 2 system, and it's basically, they got a can there that people can stick money into a slot, which is not the most, best way to do it.
Yeah.
Quite frank, is, I mean, people, money gets stolen, and a lot of times people don't even do it. It's a lot easier for people to just scan it, hit it, and go pay $5 to get their car charged, $10, whatever they donate. We can't designate an amount because only if you have the higher end chargers can you set up a kilowatt per hour charge of 8 cents a kilowatt or whatever you want to set it up at, so where they have to pay at, when they get done, it gets charged to their account. So this is gonna be a voluntary payment system, and, we're hoping most people that are driving an electric car, they're gonna save the world, they wanna try to help pay for that too. So we'll see. Like I said, if the worst case scenario, the PDA will be on the hook for $50 a month or whatever.
And my concern towards that, I think that all sounds very reasonable. I have no problem with that. I think if we could, at least my 2 cents, if we could get that intent of the PDA to cover that going forward in some kind of writing, only just because people come and go, and then there's, well, I think back when it started with this intention, and then so-and-so left, and the new person thought that the PDA shouldn't have to cover that, and the council thinks that it does,
This
so.
is a PDA project, so it
Yeah.
would follow under PDA. jurisdiction.
Yeah.
And,
It's on our
we'll work with Avista as we get closer to that process. It'll be our bank account on their billing, for billing for power bill, but we can
Well,
get that
yeah.
sorted out as we get closer to that point.
And my only concern with it is like ultimately because it exists on city property, if something was to fall through or the PDA at one point in the future would wanna wash its hands of it, it would fall back to this. And I'm not saying that you or anyone currently there would have that intent, but that way if we just document intents when it started off with it.
Well, I mean,
we have that.
if for some reason the PDA goes away and the city says, we're not gonna pick up that tab, Avista pull the meter and it's
Right.
done, you don't have to worry
Yeah.
about it. I mean, they own the machines, they own the equipment, they're gonna maintain the equipment, they're gonna, everything, they're in charge of keeping that stuff up the code and all that, so, you know, if at some point the city says, PDA's debunked, they're not around anymore, they're not gonna pay the bill, come get your stuff. There you go.
So that equipment will belong to the
It will
Avista.
belong to Avista.
Do they also insure it for any kind of vandalism?
That's a question I've asked, and they're checking into it. I think that any vandalism that's done to it, they're in charge of all maintenance and operation of those. If they break down, it's on their dime. So, vandalism wise, I'm assuming they have capital insurance on their equipment. It belongs to them. I can't imagine them not having it. It'd be foolish not to. But that's something we'll find out if they're gonna require like some kind of a addition to our city liability or insurance or whatever that might be.
So it sounds like there's no additional budgetary impact to the city
Not for
whatsoever.
the city, I mean, like I said, the power bill, like, and it says it in the letter, basically the power bill is the only impact to the city or the PDA or the agency that's putting it in, so.
So I'm gonna give you a what if. What if all of a sudden it's $175 a month?
What if the PDA is on the power bill, it's PDA's responsibility?
Okay,
I mean, you know, so, and the funds that will be collected off of whatever the app people use to pay their deal will go to the PDA, not to the city. So we're paying the bill, that's the way.
sure, absolutely.
Is the town square gonna be on a separate power bill from?
It'll have it's got its own meter, that's why we decided
Okay,
to pull it off, put a separate 200 amp meter, panel on there. It only takes 100, I think it's 65, so 130 amps to run the thing, and it'll be on its own.
So 1 meter will be to our account and
One meter will be the town square, 1 meter will be.
Yep, makes sense.
And Avista will take care of the second meter installation?
Yeah, the second meter and installation of that is all on the list. There's no cost to the city, and I think it explains that in the email, pretty much detailed email.
You mentioned the second 200 amp panel. Is Avis offering to install that?
Yeah, they put all that in. Yeah, they put the second panel in, run the power from behind Herons, it'll be underground. We've got I got a easement from Herons across that property to bury it. We didn't wanna put a pole in, poles are unsightly. I don't like power poles. So they're gonna put it underground. They'll feed one 200 amp circuit to the town square project. The second one will be to the meter and panel for the charging stations. So that's where we're at.
Good
We have a
foresight.
meeting every third Tuesday of the month. Anybody's welcome to come. I know Joe's come to some. The mayor, I think he came to one before he was mayor,
Yep.
but we invited him to come, so anybody's welcome, the public's welcome. There's usually only 5 or 6 of us there, if we're lucky, so. And they're
Well-
short and sweet, we don't,
Time and place where you meet, Jay?
huh?
Where do you meet and time?
Across this, at Memorial Hall at 7,
Oh,
so, yeah, we don't drag around.
No, they don't. Under an hour every time.
so when people come to charge their car and they wanna go to the new pizza place, when is that
Hey.
going to be open?
I'll put a pizza sticker right on it. And a post office sticker and a free advertising. Yeah, no, our purpose of the PDA is to help develop the public infrastructure and bring people to town and make things better, and that's what we wanna do, so. Appreciate your time. Any questions? Forward to him, and I'll go around my page and I'll pick them up and answer.
Thanks,
You guys.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Jay.
it.
So last month, we were talking about our current city attorney and thinking about interviewing some other ones. So David took some time on his own to check into a man by the name of David Bingaman. And Mr. Bingaman is located in Spokane, and he's considered to have an on-the-phone visit with us tonight. Are you ready to talk to Mr. Bingaman?
Anybody have a good phone for that?
Sure. I hope. How are you with apples?
I eat them.
Do you talk on them also?
Yeah. As long as on speaker, we good. We don't have a city. Yeah, 509.
Yep. No, this is not a 509. Is he gonna care about that?
Probably not. Well, we'll find out.
Okay.
You can speak English, so
Is he
he'll
gonna charge
answer.
you long distance though?
No.
509.
He didn't speak English?
He does.
Excuse me here, David. Let me get the keypad. We don't need to. Here we go. 509.
I know what you're thinking, Stephen.
Go ahead.
Okay, 710
710
1914.
1914. 509 710.
That's it.
See if he's the type of person to answer a call from out.
Did I hear a 1914?
You wouldn't catch me. Did you?
1914.
Okay. I did hear that.
You have to leave a voicemail first.
Come on here. 1914.
Correct.
Okay.
1914.
Yep, got it. Speakerphone's on.
I'd carry that joke further if I had any Spanish to back it up with.
This is her what position?
Attorney.
City attorney?
City attorney.
This is David Bingaman.
Yes, David, this is David Budrius, Harrington City Council.
Yes, how are you doing?
Good, thank you. I have you on speakerphone, and I am sitting at the table in a meeting with the mayor, Mr. Jess Silhan, and the rest of the council members, Joe Armand, Stephen Hardy, Levi Shank, and Peter Davenport, and guests in the audience. So,
All right, well, hello, everyone.
I guess as per our conversation, we're looking at a different, switching attorneys. So if, whatever you would have to say, I guess, give us a spiel on it, your expertise and a little bit about you, if you would. And we'll go from there, whatever you're comfortable with.
Yeah, no problem. Well, as you're saying, so my name is David Bingaman. I own the Northwest Corporate Counsel law firm out of Spokane, and I've been practicing for, I think we're around 13 years right now. So I primarily represent cities, towns, and businesses. So that's my primary two areas, and all that it includes. So contracts, litigation, I have represented Reardon, Airway Heights for prosecution work. I was just filling in temporarily over there. Davenport, Wilbur. So handled a lot of municipal issues over the years. Do you have any questions I could maybe answer for you?
Does anybody have questions for Mr. Bingaman? Yes, I think there's a couple councilmen that have a question for you, David.
Yeah, go for
So you said that you have represented those cities. Which ones do you currently represent?
Currently represent Davenport and Wilbur.
Great. And so I think the context of why we were looking to make some of these changes is you have more of a speciality in ordinances specifically, is that I think where we're getting at is maybe a little bit less motivated by our general representation and more motivated by being able to know how to navigate getting ordinances on the books more efficiently, and ones that will help us actually manage a stack of ordinances that are perhaps not the best organized at this point in time. Can you speak to your experience specifically with ordinances and how you might be able to help us in that area versus a more generalized lawyering specialty?
Yeah, I've actually drafted a lot of ordinances, revised a lot of ordinances, so I'm definitely familiar with that. Are you guys a code city or second class city? I actually have not looked it up to see what you're classified as.
We're Code City.
Your code? Okay, so I'll actually tell you that you're way ahead of the game since you're a code city. A lot of the old laws just aren't being updated anymore on the RCW, so that's good that you're a code city.
Thanks. Any more questions for anybody?
This is Peter Davenport, one of the council members. Do you have considerable experience in insurance questions?
Yeah, I've dealt with insurance quite a bit. Are you guys, do you guys go through Clear Risk?
ACW.
AWC. AWC.
Yeah, and AWC, I believe, is administered through Clear Risk Solutions, right?
That I don't. Maybe the clerk.
I can double check my notes.
I was just looking for my insurance packet.
I just haven't heard that organization mentioned before.
I don't recall hearing.
But to answer your question, yes, I've dealt with a lot of insurance issues. I was just looking for my own insurance packet here for Clear Risk Solutions. Wait, did you say AWC or CIAW?
AWC.
Oh, no. So CIAW is actually Clear Risk Solutions, so you're actually administered through a different pool.
Okay.
But I've dealt with quite a few insurance issues, though.
But you have a wide range of knowledge in municipal laws and a background experience, it seems like, for everybody.
I would hope so. I've been doing it quite a while, so to answer your question, yes. But there's always new things that come up, though.
Now, when we spoke earlier, as far as your rates and stuff, you had made mention of a price. Is you still good with that?
Yeah.
That was $190 an hour?
Yes.
Okay.
This is Peter Davenport again. Do you have partners in your business?
No, I don't. It's just me. I've held off on hiring anyone. What I have found is that people, when clients call, they don't want to talk to a secretary. They don't want to talk to a new associate. They want to talk to the person who knows what's going on. Mm-hmm. So everyone calls directly to me. You're never going to get anyone other than me, and that's what people like, and that's what I've stayed strong with. So yeah, just me.
And what's the name of the business entity you mentioned earlier, please?
Oh, my law firm is called Northwest Corporate Counsel.
Okay. And what did you do before you set up Northwest Corporate Counsel?
Well, when I first, going way back, out of law school, I worked in the Tri-Cities for a year. I'm from Spokane. I went down there for a job, moved back here, had my own office, and then what I did was I scaled back my office after a while considerably, and then I focused in on a couple of big clients. and then I basically did a 180 on that years ago. And so that rather than having just, a couple of really big clients, I'm much more diversified now.
Uh-huh. Thank you.
Do you have any questions?
Yes, I do. David, this is Jess Silhan. I'm the mayor. So if I wanted to call you tomorrow, the first step would be a phone call?
Yeah,
Okay.
you definitely can call me.
And then we could email things back and forth, or do you prefer face-to-face?
If you're good with email, I'm good with email. If we're definitely going to go forward with this, I absolutely would want to, meet with you face to face at some point earlier as opposed to later. So yeah, we definitely could figure that out. But email is always great. Phone calls work great. For some reason, if I don't answer, I will definitely call you back. And once I get you programmed in my phone, I'll know who calls me. So I'll get back to you sooner.
So were we to decide to have an open public meeting and invite you to come to it to speak to the public, would that be a possibility?
Yeah.
Okay.
Any more questions?
Stephen's
Trying
thinking.
to figure out a way to phrase this without being at all rude with it. But so I admire greatly your model of making sure that it's just you and that people want to speak to someone who knows what's going on. I think that's wonderful. I also think that's going to be difficult to scale. So my concern is, what are our, and I know no one makes any promises and everyone hopes for more business. So I get all that. But I'm concerned with, in the long run, if you do excellent work, which you've come highly recommended from what I hear, that's your business, your practice is going to expand, and Harrington is not going to be one of your larger clients. No one's staying up at night hoping they land the Harrington account. So I'm just kind of concerned with, over the long run, what would you say to us in terms of, are we going to still have access to you in a year or in 2 years? What are some things you can tell us about how you do business to ensure that we're going to get some responsiveness over the course of time?
Well, I'll tell you that you called my cell phone, and this goes directly to me. I absolutely respond to phone calls, to emails. I'm not gonna blow you off. Not to be just blunt, but I'm not, right? That's not what I do. And not only is it something that I don't do, I do have an ethical responsibility as well, right? And my name is attached to this, and like I said, when you call me. So there's only one person to blame if something happens, and that's me, and that's my name. So I don't plan on that happening.
Yeah.
I'm good, sounds good.
Joe?
Well, and this time I was able to find out who our insurers are. So, have you worked with National League of Cities Mutual?
No, I haven't.
Okay. That's our primary, that's our primary. So anyway, that's our insurer. I don't think that's really going to become a factor. So.
No, but at some point, I'm sure our paths are going to cross and something will come up. I've worked with Clear Risk Solutions quite a bit. They're the administrator of the CIAW pool. So I worked with them quite a bit over the years on different issues.
Okay.
But no, on yours, I have not.
Okay.
Peter Davenport again. How do you deal with potential conflict of interest? Do you determine that by yourself, or do you have a disinterested third party look into it on your behalf?
If I have, so it depends on what type of conflict of interest. Do you have an example?
Well, if Harrington were to get into a legal squabble with one of your other cities that you represent, how would you deal with that?
Well, so that's one of the conflict of interest that is not a waivable conflict of interest. An attorney can't represent two different sides of an issue. So I could not be involved on either side. If there was a direct dispute between two of my clients, I could not address either side.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
I have not had that come up. So I'm hoping it doesn't, but it definitely could. A good question, though.
And if somebody were to ask you what type of attorney you are you a trial attorney and or administrative law, or how would you describe yourself?
Well, I guess the question is it someone that doesn't like me or someone that does like me? Someone on the other side.
Fair enough.
So, what would someone say? I deal in municipal law and business law. I deal in litigation law, and I deal in contract law. So those are kind of like four different corners, but they definitely intersect. I don't know I wouldn't say that most people would say I'm a municipal attorney, or I'm a business attorney, or I'm a contracts attorney, or I'm a litigation attorney, even though those are like the four major areas. I would say that I practice. I don't think they'd say any of that. I think they would say that I'm pretty good at what I do, and I get results. And I think that's what they'd say, and I hope that's what they would say. So that's probably how I'd answer the question.
Thank you.
Sounds good, David,
Yeah.
thank you.
So we're facing an issue right now that's been ongoing for a while, and that's with our junk car ordinance, which is where we're trying to rid our city of some of people's personal little wrecking yards, is my best example of explaining that. But have you had any experience in that sort of thing?
Yeah, I have. I'm trying to think of the last one that I worked on. God, I think it was Davenport's, the last one that I worked on for junk cars. I'm trying to remember, or if it was Reardon's. I don't remember if it was. I think I've worked on both. But yeah, to answer your question, yes.
Okay.
We use Reardon's, did we not?
What's that?
Did we look at Reardon's?
Yeah, we have a copy of Reardon's right
Yeah.
now.
I've got it
Okay.
right here, it was done December 2019.
Yeah.
Well, I think I'm good at this
Is that-
point too. Anybody else have any questions for David? Well, sir, we thank you very much for sharing your time with us, and very possibly we'll be talking to you in the future.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, have a good night.
Thank you for taking a call from an 801 number. Some people see that and they figure I'm trying to sell them something.
What is 801? I'm just curious.
801 is Utah. I lived there for a couple of years with a company. So, and that is the state where all of the people live who make phone calls for a living. I know because I get them by the hundreds. But,
Gotta love it.
so,
Yes,
did I hear anything else, sir?
No, I just failed to mention the clerk's name to
Oh,
David.
Jerry Lee is our clerk. You would probably be hearing from him also.
Sounds good.
I'll make sure I got that in. Thanks for your time, David.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Well, thank you guys.
We're good. Thanks so much, David. Talk to you again,
No
hopefully.
problem. Thanks.
Interesting.
Could I ask a question of the audience?
Absolutely.
Yes? Could all of you hear what he had to say on his telephone?
No. Really? Good.
You couldn't hear it?
As long as he can take care of the junk cars. He's hired.
Well, he comes highly recommended from
We got
numerous
enough of them
people.
in town.
And it would be my recommendation that we go with them, go that avenue.
So
And
that would be for everything, right? I mean,
Right.
and I'm not saying I'm not trying to frame that in any negative light, but is that Josh would be fully out and we would go to David.
Yeah, he would become our city attorney,
Yeah.
our city attorney, yes. Cause he's dealt with, just saying, by conversation prior to, last week with him, he's had a lot of experience with trial and dealing, and personally with Josh in court and stuff like that, so he knows. He has my vote, put it that way. I think he's a pretty sharp young man.
You've met with him?
Over the phone only.
Forgive my ignorance on this, but AWC gives us some degree of legal counsel for free as a part of our membership, right? That's my understanding.
I haven't focused on that, but I know that they've been very willing to answer questions that breached into those areas.
So it's more their auxiliary support on top of our main counsel, right? Is
Yes.
that they're kind of like specialists to maybe coordinate with your main lawyer to if you need something city specific as it pertains to RCWs or all the best practices and requirements that are city specific, that they can coordinate with.
MRSC is more
Yeah,
geared
MR.
toward that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do know that AWC requires them being involved in employee actions of the city. So, but I'm sure that's because they want to make sure that their policy isn't exposed to different issues with employee liability and hiring and firing and those kind of issues. So,
Well, keep in mind, we're at the same rate that we're paying currently, and he's willing to come to Spokane, or come from Spokane, and whereas the other one's retired, basically, and doesn't wanna come here, so.
Yeah, I was at Josh Grant's office this week, and he reiterated again that he would not come to any meeting in Harrington, because he lives the opposite direction, and he wasn't gonna go another 38 miles, so. Not that he couldn't provide somebody, but he personally would not come.
And that's fine, he's entitled to do that, but
course.
I think going forward, the needs and everything that we're seeing that the city is encountering now and in the future, we need somebody more hands-on and as Cracker Jack wanna take this and do it.
I'm pretty much sold on the fact that this is his area of expertise, this is his area of practice, and coupled with it's the same rate.
Yeah. He said he was gonna he gives municipalities a break a little bit. He does charge higher rates. So he's not a cheapo attorney, but he gives them a bit of a favor, for
Versus
rates.
the
Yeah.
the businesses, he said he was also representing, the businesses are probably paying higher than municipalities.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
So,
Does he
Mr.
require-
Parham, go ahead.
Does he require a retainer?
We didn't ask him that.
He will pay for billable hours?
well, I think he knows where we live, so.
Yeah.
That'd be a question to ask, huh? The first
Yeah.
one of next conversation?
Yeah.
I
Okay.
guess my question to Josh Grant, our current attorney, require that.
I don't know the answer to that question.
I don't remember that ever.
I was just going to ask the parliamentarian if he knows if we had to have a motion to have Josh be our city attorney.
I would
No,
think that you
David.
would, however, it was my impression that you could not vote on financially impacting issues if they weren't on the agenda. But the
That's a
exit handout item from the audit seems to imply without any type of exception that, during our review of the minutes, we identified that the city council voted on an item that was listed as a discussion only item on the agenda as a part of their other findings. So without the fact that they don't qualify that, as it was my understanding that it should have a qualification, it would probably be best if, because this is not on our agenda for tonight, if we probably hold the vote until next time to make sure that everyone's happy.
Sounds good. I
I'm
could also
satisfied.
call and verify the retainer question.
Yeah. But I think it sounds like the council's pretty well aligned on what our intentions are towards it.
So for our next meeting, we'll have to dismiss our current attorney and hire the other one, hire the new one.
I'm assuming we'll need to officially dismiss him then. If it requires a vote for us to, or a motion to approve the new attorney, will it take the same to dismiss the other one, or can we just say?
Well, they're two separate actions.
Right.
Would you like me to call Josh Grant and ask him that legal question?
I don't think we'd have to have a motion if you asked him that question.
Call the new attorney and ask him for a free sample.
Yeah.
Well, AWC, I think, well, I believe we would have to have, they're two separate, we put them on the
Right.
agendas and
Right.
things.
So it was Bunny who secured Josh's services
Mhm.
about 10 years ago. to
Right
the best
after our
of his,
other attorney retired.
could have been, I'm not sure. But
Yeah, that's what
I believe it was
happened.
in 18 or 19. that they got
Yeah. Yeah, because the lady that had been our attorney for
Cindy,
ever and a day retired, and she, I think if I recall correctly, she recommended Josh, and so he became our attorney after that.
Okay, I'll have to check into this,
Yeah.
to those facts.
You can check that, but if I remember correctly, that's how it went down.
Okay? Any further discussion?
No.
Okay, let's go on to approve the minutes for the April 13th meeting.
This is a good time for discussion.
Sure.
Under Town Square project, there are a couple typos with the plural of cities. Should be CITY apostrophe S. We're talking about the 13th of April.
yes, April 13.
About the third or fourth line down, there are two areas where the plural of city is used instead of the possessive.
Where was that at again, Peter?
Right here.
Should
on
be
the
spelled
top of-
CITY apostrophe S.
Top of the
You
second
You need a
page.
punch on yours? There you go.
Move to approve as amended.
Second.
I just have discussion.
Sure.
Under wind damage, how do you guys read that first sentence? Or the, yeah, the first sentence. Whoop, hold it. Yeah, you were right there.
Well, that was Sage's.
Under wind damage, David?
Yes. Where you had noted, are you reading that?
Yeah. Councilman Hardy noted that the recent windstorm had knocked over a stop sign and damaged the Memorial Hall roof.
Yeah. Does it read okay to you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay.
Is
Got
there
it.
something,
No, it's fine.
okay.
Here's David.
What's that? Yeah. Right here. You just made it sound
you
like the stop
second
sign
that?
damaged the memorial. It could.
Oh. I didn't read it that way, but I guess I read it with a bit of a pause before the and, so.
Geez,
Either that, or we have super tall stop
Stop
signs in
signs.
this town
Sorry.
that-
things are so
Very
city's
aerodynamic. It was
right
able to
here.
pick it up and carry it that high.
So it's been moved and seconded to accept the meetings as edited. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Say the same. So that's 5-0. Thank you, council. Next issue on the agenda is water meters. So there's a little story behind that, and that's that we used to have those read by one of our two or both of our two public works workers. And at the present moment, we only have one public works man. And I'm somewhat hesitant to take him off the work that is pretty well keeps his days full all the time right now. I would like to bring in a person who cleans our memorial hall and the bathrooms at the park. Elizabeth Wolf. She has made some interest in that. So for this year, rather than try to take Troy off those jobs, Elizabeth has offered that, and Troy would have to be trained, as would Elizabeth. But we could keep our money right here in town, help out one of our own people, and get the job done without taking another valuable man away from his job. So although I don't think I have to ask the council, I would like to have your blessing on that before going forward.
Sounds like an excellent idea.
I'll give you a thumbs up. It sounds like a good idea.
The only question I have is, does the city currently have, did the council create a position? Do we have a position on the books for that?
You wouldn't
Or do we
need
need
one
to?
because it's part-time, according to the handbook. Handbook allows the mayor to hire part-time employees at his discretion.
That is a part-time job.
Cassandra did that for several years.
Yeah, many years, I
Yeah.
understand, like 10.
Yep.
And I may want to hire Cassandra for a couple days to train Elizabeth.
Okay.
But is that part-time, full-time?
Because the other jobs she
Well, it's
has,
like
or
4 days a month.
That's the question, if we had a,
oh, prior you
do
mean?
we, does the council have to do that? I know what you're mentioning, Stephen, figuring part-time means that, but full-time, it's gonna be a year, it could be 5, 10 years, so that would be a full-time, part-time.
Right, but it's usually only seasonal as well.
It is
Yeah.
that. We quit
That's-
reading
Right,
it.
yeah.
In what, November, October, somewhere in there?
I mean, I know we also used to hire additional help when we were mowing
Mm-hmm.
our own lawn.
Part-time.
Those were things that kind of come on and off seasonally.
Right.
Seasonally, and historically, hopefully years to years, there was the same person.
Right.
But it didn't have to be. It didn't really have a guaranteed continuity to it. So
We just found somebody reliable who was willing to do it on a regular basis, and
well,
Just
especially
stuck with her,
because at
so.
this point in time,
Yeah.
the council's intention, I would assume, is to hire a second public works employee. I haven't heard anyone tell me that we aren't pursuing that. So I would assume that were that a second public works employee to come back on, the default assumption would be to go back to the way it was until we specifically change it. So at least at this point in time, I'm not hearing anything to indicate that it's a long-term solution.
If anything, for this current season,
Right.
and we could revisit that again next year.
right.
Hopefully our city's in a little bit better position.
If she's willing to do it, I'm for it, but
Can I add something to this? Not taking anything away from that position, but one of the other roles that we need to do as a city is to get an inventory of sidewalks. And I'm just thinking that since we have somebody walking the streets anyway, if it wouldn't be impossible to put a measuring wheel in their hand
Oh,
to measure as they walked around.
Do we have, I know that last meeting we talked about obtaining what the requirements are for that effort. Have we done that?
I did get an email that said, yes, we're supposed to have an inventory into AWC to have better coverage
Okay.
in place for them.
Well, yeah, but did they define what that inventory consists of?
Literally measuring how many linear feet of sidewalk we have.
Not the condition, just a linear feet.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, so I'm not asking her to do an assessment of the sidewalk, just
To
to
know how
this
much has
sidewalk
we
This
have.
is a sidewalk and it's, on this street,
Right.
there's 432 feet,
Okay.
move on to the next block,
Are they map it as well, or just say this is how much is in Harrington?
pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
I don't wanna get off on a rabbit trail. I'm in favor of that. I'm just pondering in my mind, there are some sidewalks where I think it'd be challenging to know, what do you count? Like, where does the sidewalk actually end? Cause you would look at the street and be like, I'm pretty sure there was sidewalk there at one point in
Just
time.
faded
So,
into the gray.
from a legal standpoint, are we obligated to the sidewalk that
Mm,
has been removed, or?
They are covered right now, just with a much higher penalty deductible, if you will,
Just for insurance purposes?
for insurance purposes.
Gotcha.
If they're inventoried and they have an inventory of them, then we get we might A, get a more favorable insurance rate, and B, we get better coverage as in a lower deductible.
So if we tell them we have a mile of sidewalk, and we don't tell them thing one about what conditions it's in, it lowers our deductible?
It could lower our insurance rate.
Could what?
Okay.
Could
Yeah.
lower our insurance rate.
Roll
Yeah.
with that.
So what you're saying with all the trip hazards
Go
on there,
for it.
That would be my only concern
Yeah.
is, does Elizabeth trip?
Well, she's measuring the sidewalk.
But,
As long as she gets the
Yeah.
numbers in first, the insurance will.
so, I'm just throwing that out there since we have a person walking those miles anyway.
Sounds good to me.
And you know what I'm
Could
talking
you-
about, one of the,
Yeah.
yeah.
Could Mr. Armand describe what an inventory process is? What do you do when you inventory a sidewalk?
Just on,
It's there or not?
yes, just that on this block, between this street and this street, there are X number of feet of actual sidewalk.
So you don't record the condition?
No,
they just what, square footage or linear footage?
linear footage,
linear.
yeah.
Don't we already have that?
I talked to a former mayor, and he said it had been a challenge for him to get it. And since then, I'm assuming that it was never
Wasn't
acquired.
pursued after that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember it coming up.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like a great job for a guy who walks around town a lot.
Yeah, it
That
does.
crossed my mind.
That's a
Do you know
Hand in the
anybody
wheel.
like that?
That's a possible.
Okay.
Oh.
Anyway, that's my only 2 cents with that. Aside from that, whether that happens or not,
You can take
I'm
that
still
before
a
he
go.
leaves off, just so you know.
No,
Okay,
I mean, if she doesn't do it, or we don't want her to do it, or she doesn't wanna do it, I'll do it.
I'm gonna move forward with that issue then.
Okay.
Okay.
Next issue on the agenda is the junk car ordinance.
I
Nothing
guess that's tabled until we
can move forward.
get the.
The problem is still manifesting itself.
The only thing I
And
would
growing.
add to that, in future reference, is to, instead of using junk cars, that we use a nuisance ordinance to it, because that'll encompass,
More,
every,
all of it.
and that's what they actually refer to as a nuisance ordinance.
I like that
covers-
word better also.
Once you learn how to spell it, it's kind of,
I'm not
I don't
gonna,
know, how do you
I'm not
spell
going
that?
to subject my spelling to public,
Scrutiny.
nope. The next thing would be the mayor's comments. I think the first thing that deserves a good flag wave is our audit is virtually done.
Hallelujah.
On May 6th at 9 o'clock in the morning, we will be having a exit review. That exit review will be able to be part of for the mayor, the clerk, and all the city councilmen and the treasurer.
It's 6th of May.
6th of May at 9 a.m. in the morning to 9:30. I asked the auditors if they would be coming in person, and their explanation was that they could for $750 plus some additional travel expenses. So I decided that a team meeting would be just fine. At any rate,
I just remembered
Did you email that
that
to
I
me,
already told the
Joe?
school that I would substitute teach for Mike Cronach that day.
yeah, well, it'll be recorded also.
Yeah.
So-
I'll get here earlier in the day to make sure that we're set up for the recording, and then I'll
Okay.
just have to watch the recording after.
Or the night before or something,
Yeah.
maybe Thursday?
Yeah.
Okay. My questions to the auditors were, who can I have attend this? So my first question was, can the public attend this? Their answer was yes, the public can attend. The public is not allowed to ask questions. They can listen to the whole audit being distributed to the city. The mayor, the clerk, the treasurer, and all 5 councilmen can ask questions.
Okay.
They asked that you would look over all of the information, and you should all have that distributed to you if you don't get hold of me before next Friday. And that you come prepared to ask your questions prior to the meeting start. Once they start, they would like to flow through the whole thing.
You need them in written form or oral?
I'm sure oral's just fine. And you could do this at home if you want on a team meeting. I think we're planning on having a computer going here.
Mm-hmm.
So that wouldn't be open to the public to ask questions, only the council. Council, mayor, clerk, and treasurer get to ask the auditors questions.
And I would say
Suppose
one
that's why you're
computer
covering from
here.
Mike, Stephen.
One computer, yes.
One
we-
computer here.
We've done that many times here, you and I, and our computers are chatting with each other.
Yeah. I will be in Spokane that day, so I will have to attend from there.
That's not a problem. So,
9 o'clock.
that's been a very
Like
costly
6.
thing. It's been going on for almost a year now, and that deserves a big hooray. We're done with the audit.
Mm-hmm.
So, number 2 on my list. If any of you ever watch the nightly news, you probably hear things like Build America, Buy America. And you may think that's a wonderful thing. But some of the things that come from that are maybe not that good. Because some of our projects that we have going that are not approved at the present time after May 14th, when this goes into effect, if we need to buy any more pipe or other things, whatever vendors you buy them for, most likely don't think they have to compete with some people if they're an American vendor. So some of this could cost us in overruns at some point in time. So at the present time, we're looking pretty good. Adams Street, as you know, that was going on the docket here to be paved, I think the past 3 years, maybe? Maybe 5 years. Any rate, it's going to start the second week in May.
Hallelujah.
I had Stephen Marsh and the head engineer in here today to go over what their plans were. It's going to have curbs with hardened steel involved. They'll be the kind of curbs, what I call mopped-in curbs, but it's the kind you can drive over.
Okay.
Yep. No square curb on the corner.
Okay.
California curbs.
Okay.
They would work.
No tire workers, that's all I know.
So anyway, that's going to start. We're going to have a meeting here on the 12th at 3:30. That'll be the first team meeting, and there will be a meeting every Thursday at 3:30. And although the public is invited to listen, they don't necessarily get to partake in that. It's to update the city works people and
Okay.
any of the people who live in the neighborhood what's going on. The whole thing should be done before Memorial Day. So it's only going to be like a 3-week job, although it's not a huge area for a big company.
Right.
It's only 1/8 of a mile. And
Still a
they'll be
big deal
starting
for us.
from 20 feet from the railroad tracks where the signs, the crossing
arms?
signs are, the arms are. That's where the line's gonna start and it's gonna go to the top of the hill.
Did we,
You'll get cement, excuse me,
go ahead.
you're gonna get a cement driveway approach now and you're gonna be like a,
Driveway approach.
that's right. From after the curb, they're gonna put about 3 feet of cement, if it's not already there. So,
I have more questions for you.
so I'm done with that. That's going to take on, it's gonna go on. Any questions about the job?
Not right now.
Okay.
Yes.
He'll be awake
I
at
have
night for a
questions
while.
as a citizen.
Right there on the end of my desk is the sheet of information.
And I probably should just actually get a hold of Stephen Marsh and attack him personally on these things.
Well, 2 other people who live on your street have already done that. So they came in today to see me so that maybe I could get between Stephen Marsh and them, and I told them that wasn't a mayoral duty.
No, it's not.
No, that they should come and talk to the council.
Which is why I said I'm not gonna put you in the middle of that. I'll go, that's what, he gets paid the big bucks for a reason. He can answer questions.
I told him that too the other day.
Was that addressed at all with the RV park that we ran into last winter?
Yes. No,
That meter
that's
stuff?
that is a whole separate issue that I had a pretty lengthy talk just this week about that.
Okay.
And I told that gentleman that he should come and do the same thing, talk to the council, that the mayor is actually not in charge of where your water meter is.
Right.
And it may have been there for several decades now.
Because that was brought up when we were involved with that process. It's
Yeah,
a good time to do it.
Yes,
when
it
we're gonna
was.
Tear the road, so.
and I told him that if he came and talked to the council, whether the city wanted to fix it or not, the council might decide they're going to move a water meter. But
Well,
that's not,
mine's in my house.
pardon me?
Mine is in my house.
Mine too.
So, I mean, if you're moving water meters on that street, you'll be more than one.
At any rate, you as a council can make those kind of decisions.
want
If
any
you
information?
decided you wanted to move that water meter, we would do it with city employees. And that's one of those costs we would absorb, but that's not a decision that I'll make with the property owner.
Right.
So,
Makes sense.
I'm not sure where that's going yet. I did tell him that legally I found out that some of these old time things that people think are the way the world works, the meter is not the defining line. Your property line is the defining line. So anything that's on your property, you can,
Be it ahead of the meter or behind the meter.
doesn't matter. If it's on
Right.
your property, and the question was, that's my meter. When it's on the other side of the property line, my meter is now your meter. So, at any rate, we'll see how this stuff goes. This may be a question for our new attorney, if we get one.
Well, I just hate tearing up new asphalt if something
No,
happens.
you won't have to. The meter would be outside the curb, so any work would be outside the curb, because the meters are never in the street.
Between the curb and his property.
That's correct.
That fence he has.
Yeah. So it's really, it wouldn't have to dig up anything. There's no lines. All of the lines are over in that parking strip, so to speak.
Okay.
All of the sewer lines and the water lines are all in the parking strip. So there's no tearing up this street after you repave it. Not to repair a water line anyway.
Okay.
So that's a good thing. Recycle cardboard. Jerry and I were looking the other day and our budget, and I haven't been able to prove this yet, but the copies of the budget we have predicted that we would spend around $1,800 a year to dump the recycle bin. And so far this year, it's cost us about $3,000. And I've heard a dozen different reasons for that. Because of COVID, everybody orders everything now, so everything comes to your house, and that's why we have more cardboard. And I personally think that could be one addition. The other addition is the fact that people come from all over the county to
They
fill up
do.
our dumpster.
Or out of town and stuff.
Out of town, yes. So it's not just the residents of Harrington. When I was talking to the mayor of Wilbur the other day, he told me that they moved their dumpster to an area and put a fence around it. And now you have to go to the city hall, as we do for our burn pile, and get a key. And if you're not a city resident, we don't make that dumpster available to you.
Fair enough.
I have to check. My first thought was, if it's costing us that much, maybe we don't need a cardboard dumpster, but I'm not gonna make that judgment. That's not up to me. I was also told that we may be liable to have a cardboard dumpster because of certain regulations with the county. So there's some things that still need to be investigated, but the cardboard dumpster appears to be costing us a lot more money than we have budgeted.
If I can interject a comment, I spoke to somebody who indicated that at one point in time, and it would be curious to see if it is still there, that there, because of the possibility that there are people outside of the city of Harrington using that we were getting a discounted rate for that
Yeah,
being,
but from what I've heard, so I believe that was negotiated by former Councilman Becker, given his position with the county and stuff. From what I heard, rumor has it that was a very minimal discount.
okay.
It was more of a token, yeah, we realize there might be some other people, so here, have this. Now, I don't know, I'm not saying that I know that to be the case. If Rick is listening, is like, nope, it's absolutely not the case. I don't know, I'm just contributing to the discussion to say that's what I had heard about the matter, but.
My thought is part of your questions and answers is maybe we can get that answered. Is that a discounted rate? Did that go away? Can we get a discounted rate based on it being more of a community than just Harrington?
I don't see really the need to do that I've never heard that personally, but we've talked about this issue in depth prior. And we were gonna move it to another location, and I would recommend we do that and see what it is, and if it's still out of hand, we get rid of it.
So we do have one location that's fairly close. I don't think it would be any kind of a problem for the people who live in this town. And the people who live across the street from the recycled dumpsters would probably love it if we took those recycled dumpsters and moved them down where our sewage disposal area is.
You walk up the gate.
Maybe, I don't know. I don't know how many people would drive off the street.
You mean put them out past David?
Yes, actually out there, you
I'll
know,
set
they
up a
could,
toll booth.
they could be around the corner, or, there's plenty of room down there that we could probably make a spot.
Yeah.
And I believe that's our property.
It is.
That's my understanding, that whole area down there is our property. So
You can do
back
that,
where
you
we,
can do the Olaf property, you can do all sorts of things.
I'd like to see it moved. I'm tired of picking up the cardboard and the plastic in my yard.
Well, that's just the issue. And a lot of them that do this have those type of compactors or that size. They usually end up putting a fence around their chicken wire or
To
something.
keep anything from blowing
Yes.
away.
And I know there's
Yeah.
somebody from Moeller that dumps there because I got her mailing package in my yard.
That would be a good indicator.
yeah,
So,
Well, if we
So-
are gonna move things around, maybe it would be worth moving the green bin same place.
it's
Yeah,
the
I'd
county,
like to
it's the
see 'em
county who
moved.
picks up the green dumpster. So,
Just
so
saying,
I am
there's-
personally keeping track of these now. I have a Post-it note taped to my desk. And Troy is going to let me know. He's going to keep charge of that, so we don't have to call Jerry every day. He's right there next to it. And he's gonna call it, and we're gonna monitor this and see how often. It's been like once a week. And I don't think Harrington generates that much cardboard, but we're now actually monitoring the situation. So I'll have facts for you next month.
Here's a question. If you had signage up down there stating that those were for Harrington residents only, and you had evidence of someone from outside of the city limits dumping there, could they be cited for illegal dumping?
I don't know, I was the president of a condo association once, and that's called theft of services. We had people that would come and go inside our fenced area and put their garbage in. And we had a lady who, bless her heart, took pictures of everybody who went to the garbage can. Because we paid a handsome fee to have those dumpsters dumped.
See, that's,
And the actual Linwood police came and looked at her photographs, went to the man's house and told him that he was going to cite him for theft of services if he didn't come and remove those 6 or 7 bags. And she had this on video. But I think in today's world, you could take a picture of somebody doing virtually anything and the police won't do anything about anything because that's the times we live in. So I have a suspicion times have changed.
How much between the two? We have the cardboard, there's 2 of them down there, I believe, isn't there? 2
Yes,
bins?
yes.
And the green waste together, how much are we spending?
$330. $300 for the garbage and the cardboard and the recycle bin. Jerry, there's a Post-it note there, and you'll see recycle bin. Did I write that on there?
360.
360. So it's
300, yeah. Yeah, it's,
I
for
think
the
it's-
recycle bins, it's 300.
300.
150 each,
Yes.
and then 50 for the green waste, every time they pick it up and drop a new one.
Okay, and then where did we get to 3,000?
And we've got 3,000 already. That's something Jerry could probably pull
okay.
up. I
And that's
don't
per
have-
time that they dump it.
Yeah, in 2022. So we're already over twice what we
Right.
So we've
budgeted.
dumped it 10 times so far this year.
Between the three containers, it's like
In 4 months.
And the green dumpster just came out a week ago, so it's brand new out. It's been dumped once, maybe 2 weeks ago. Troy, you had something there.
Yeah, there's another effect that's going on. It's not only hitting Priscilla's yard when the wind blows that direction. People are just dumping the crap on the floor, on the ground,
If the dumpster's full.
if the dumpster's full, but it's also blowing into the water ditch
Oh, behind us there.
Joy.
behind it. So you got
Littering.
styrofoam and plastic in the water.
So I think we need to ask the county, it sounds to me reasonable, if they would consider driving down to our wastewater plant and do a good survey down there, find out if there's a place the truck can get in without getting stuck. I know in the wintertime that can get a little, maybe we can make a better place.
Yeah,
We have
we
gravel.
can try to put it down by the green bins, fence that area in.
it'd have to be fenced.
Yes,
The problem is if we invest in fencing, I think we're investing in the future of a service that has at least been questioned quite a bit as to whether we will continue to have it. So set aside whether you have the feeling that you want to see it continue or not. The moment you pay for putting fencing in there, unless you have an alternative purpose for that fencing, should those bins go away, we have put more money into the concept of having that around.
And along the line of what Stephen just said, I'm curious to know if we are legally obligated to have those.
I agree
That's
too.
my biggest curiosity.
Yeah, that's gonna take a little
Right.
research.
That's all I want to know is if we're required legally to have them.
I'm kinda curious about the green waste when we have a pit up here that.
Yeah, see, I've
owners-
wondered about that myself.
There are a lot of shrubs and stuff that people dump in there that they could take to the pit,
Yeah, well,
and they don't do it.
2 or 3 shrubs and that fills the thing up, you're done.
They're
It's
too
not just-
lazy to come get the key.
Yeah,
Well, I think one of the things that I've floated before, and I understand, there's a whole consideration of the fact that the pit is up on private property. But I've thought that it would be a nice thing if the owner was amenable to it, and it's my understanding that the city has had a pile of gravel around that it gets at bulk rates, that I would offer to gravel that road in, and it could maybe help. I don't know what is all entailed in creating a good gravel road, but I think one of the concerns in some parts of the year is people don't feel like they have a vehicle that can go up there reliably. Now, I know there's things that there are concerns and whatever else that go beyond that, but I know for some people that is one of the primary concerns, is they don't feel like they can get up there. So if we could maybe improve that road in a mild way to help prevent against the worst, that might make that more accessible.
Is that a farm field?
On the border of one, I believe. It's,
Belongs to Phillips, is that correct?
I believe so.
Yes, it does. Don owns it. Chris is in control of it right now. It's his son.
But to keep in mind, is it some for waste or people, because a lot of times what you're talking about, Stephen, during really inclement weather, there's not a lot of green stuff going on, but early spring, yeah, there would be. But people I fear people might get the idea it's like an old dump like we used to have years ago, but that's not the case.
No,
Yes, correct, that's not a dump.
I guess the way I would see is the city has gotten a benefit from that for years, for which we paid nothing. And Chris, Phillips or whoever owned that have their own stuff there on the east side of it that I'm assuming we didn't put there.
Nope.
I'm guessing it looks like there's
That's theirs.
right. And so to me it looks like this is a place if they kicked us out, they would still be going back there. So as a way of saying thank you and as a way of improving it for things that say, hey, let us gravel it for you, since it's a place that if you want it, if you approve that, and then they could get the benefit of that regardless of what happens. It would be a thank you from the city, and it would make it a little bit more accessible to our people. I'm not talking about a major reconstruction of that,
Right.
but maybe if adding a few inches of gravel and smoothing it out would help things. I don't know.
I know Scott wouldn't let anybody go up there in the winter because it was clay and it would made ruts.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Would not only make ruts, it's nasty.
I don't know, I didn't go.
I've been up there with a four-wheel drive and driven on the grass, not on the road, because
You
There's
couldn't
no way
be
to
more-
get
Yeah,
through.
there's a secondary road now that people have put because the road gets so sticky and it gets a big
And
puddle
rutted.
in it.
yeah. Troy,
So, we're required to have these bins, we're required to spend this money?
don't know that for a fact.
Okay.
That's under investigation.
If people would like to recycle, I'm pretty sure we can get a hold of Sunshine, they can bring out individual recycle bins for the people that wanna recycle and eliminate this whole mess and save the city money.
Well,
I
that's what that
asked our-
cardboard is.
Yeah, I asked our garbage man that last Wednesday. Not today, last Wednesday. And I said, do you take recycle bins out or pick them up? He said, I don't. In some communities, we do. So
Which
I
is to
know
imply
that
a
they were
separate service.
they were the only one left who would come to Harrington. We don't live right next to Spokane, thank goodness. But, so they were the only one even interested in bidding on our garbage service. Maybe they could. That's a call that we could make to Sunshine and ask. So, that's another thing we can do.
Well, the question there is how do we charge that then?
I think they would probably set the cost and tell you what you can and can't put in a can.
Well, if he's already saying that he wouldn't do that, what are we hoping he would answer to us then?
I don't know that he said they wouldn't.
Just
For
that he
a price
doesn't.
being a business, they would probably entertain the thoughts of doing anything. I know they're struggling getting somebody to drive the garbage truck. As you well know,
What they traditionally have is a second driver that only does recycling.
yep,
So
Different
it
truck.
would mean 2 trucks coming out a week.
And if they have that,
two
they'll want a
drivers.
minimum number.
Mhm.
Which means that if we were to offer that service as a city, we're gonna have to find a way to make a guarantee that they'll have their minimum.
That
Which would
everybody
mean
will
that
have
whether
the
you
2
want
cans?
recycling or not, you'll be somehow financially impacted by the city's trying to make a guarantee, because if they want 50 people and only 49 people are interested in the service, either we don't do it at all, or some person bears the impact of not wanting it but having to pay for it anyway. So,
Before anything happens, let's at least find out if it's required.
Yep, I agree.
If what?
If it's
If it's
required.
required that
Well,
we
know
have the
green waste
dumpster,
bin is not.
Right.
recycle bins.
I would nix that thing.
When they pick up the recycling
It's all a
bins,
mess.
do they weigh the contents, do you know?
I don't believe so, cause they charge us the same fee every time.
I think it's just a put and take
I
service.
don't believe we make any money off of it.
No, I don't think but they don't charge us a different fee. They charge us the same rate every time they come.
It's just pick up and deliver.
Yeah. Well, it's an item that I'll get more information on for our next meeting. So we'll have at least 4 weeks. If this thing is going every week, I think we're gonna require some definite thinking on this issue. So that's the end of the mayor's update. Any public comments?
I was just going to mention one thing when somebody said a weekly pickup of recyclables. I've been in a couple of different communities where they only do like once a month.
Well, we used to get away with that. It was like every 3 or 4 weeks, yeah, that they'd come in and say the dumpster's full.
But that's with maybe people stopping by and putting their stuff in it.
Absolutely.
I'm talking about just at our residences.
Oh,
And if we put out our recyclables, you know, the paper, the glass, and the plastic. And they picked it up once a month, all 3 things. Some people might not have it. But I think a lot of people do have plastic and there's a little bit of glass left.
well, we'll have to check with Sunshine and see what services they offer. But then, as Stephen was saying, any attempt to raise the rate on our garbage bill becomes almost a rock throwing issue.
Pitchforks and torches.
Yeah, and even this year, as rates go up, you know, at some point, if Sunshine raises our rates, we'll have to raise rates.
Question for the clerk. Are we paying a fuel premium, Jerry, for
Surcharge.
garbage pickup yet? Isn't there a clause, fuel premium clause?
I don't remember seeing that on the bill.
I seem to remember that, isn't that something that they can add at the end of the year contractually? They have the ability to add a fuel addition to it. I seem to remember something about that.
Didn't they just raise their rates by percentage to cover that?
I
They
thought
did in
had this special
Davenport.
ability. They had
They
a s-
raised
a s-
ours too last,
Ours, we're due for a contractual,
this fall, I
Talk
think. I
here.
believe.
Because I think it came up when we were talking about the budget at the end of the year, that at the end of the year, they have the ability to say, we spent X amount more on gas than we expected, and we're tacking that onto your end of the year bill. Maybe I just dreamt that, but I'm I'd have to maybe talk with Justin, but I think that was a factor at the end of the year as we were trying to square everything up, because it's one of the many things that we don't know exactly where we're gonna land until right at the end of December.
Right.
I have one other situation here, and I have never entertained one of these before. I would like to entertain that the council have a committee to deal with a current situation. I've been to the lawyer now twice on this, and that's with the library board situation that we have going on. So, you've been involved with listening to
I've heard things.
my interests on my first trip to the lawyer. I don't know if I have anything to say with who is on that committee, but if I do, would you consider being on that committee?
Yeah.
Okay. And then one of the other council people. Takes 2 people on a committee, is that correct? You can't have 3 because that'd
Can't
be,
have more than 2.
Correct,
you can't have more than 2. So, is there a second person who has time to get involved in that? This should only take
Careful, Joe.
4 or 5 hours for you to read through. I've read through these couple of pages more times than I wanna talk about.
Couple
But-
pages, 4 or 5 hours?
Well,
How
if
many
you-
pages
if
are
you
a
sit
couple?
and discuss every term that's listed on these pages, yeah.
When do you plan on meeting for this committee?
I'm
Up
not
to the
on
committee?
although I guess I can be on the committee. I believe I'm a non-voting
Right.
issue, so I could take part in it.
It's up to you.
I can do it, the CAO and SEPA, that's coming to that's winding down, so I can replace that time.
I think this will be much less work than that's been. And,
Careful, Joe.
no, I just think it will be. It's just something I think the council needs to act on. This
Okay.
is not something that I need to make a decision on.
What specifically are we, or can you talk about it outside of an executive session?
Well, I have, the council, or it was given to me a few weeks ago that the past 3 or 4 mayors have not followed through
Right,
with
Okay.
electing board members for the
library board.
board.
Okay.
And in reading this, the library board is
Separate entity?
yes, all its own. And it's a very interesting thing, the way the state, and it's revolved around state statutes, which go back many years. And it was kind of interesting, the lawyer that we currently have actually had all of the leather-bound books
Mm-hmm.
in his bookcase that refer to those statutes. And the statutes have been updated 3 or 4 times. Our piece of paper actually has some things that are out of date and are no longer
Okay.
on the state. So it's reading what the lawyer had to say and reacting to the board and to everybody.
I guess Joe and I then.
Okay, that sounds wonderful to me. I will meet with you gentlemen anytime you want and provide you all the information that I have. I'll give you my file.
One last thing then, in regards to the conversation we had with a citizen at Post and Office, do you feel like anything is needing to be mentioned on that now, or are we good?
I think that's something that definitely could be brought up. I'm glad you brought that up. I didn't put that on the agenda.
What's the issue
And-
again?
And that's something we couldn't act on tonight, actually, I feel, since,
Well, as far as I understand it, the best of my understanding right now with the auditor's results is that we can discuss it, because we can call for additions to the agenda and we can add to the agenda. We can't add an action item to the agenda. We can't vote on it. I could be wrong in that, but that is my best understanding at the moment.
well, I'm gonna trust you. You got,
Yeah, I guess you can blame me if I get this wrong.
okay. Well, a gentleman approached us and asked a question about something. He was here, and I was at that council meeting too, about people bringing and putting shipping containers on their property, fully exposed to the neighbors, or in other words, somebody wants to bring a 40-foot long shipping container and place it in between your house and theirs. You know, he would like to see a moratorium on that until the council has time to put together some sort of resolution stopping that kind of action. That's, I think, what the council would do. That's if you think shipping containers belong in your front yard.
Yeah.
Maybe you do. I'm not sure. But it has been brought up before, and I think it could be under the nuisance. There could be many things, and the nuisance part is in legal.
I told said citizen that given that we have a backlog of ordinances we're trying to fix, primarily the ones that David has so graciously been chasing with the junk vehicle ordinance, and then it kind of also falls into how do we enforce the dog ordinance and our enforcement officer in general. I said, until we get a lawyer that can actually help us action these ordinances, I would find it very challenging to figure out how we're going to draft a new ordinance to fix this, because we've got other ones in line first. And so that's why I don't think it's going to hit the top of the priority list in the near future. But he said, well, what about a moratorium? And I said, well, that could be helpful, because perhaps it would be easier for the council to get drafted, especially if we have new legal counsel or something. Maybe it would be easy to whip out a moratorium that would kick the can down the road for us, and then allow us to get back to the things that we had already told the citizenry that we are working on in the queue first, and then we can address it when the moratorium ends, and figure out what we want to do as a more permanent solution on the matter. But that was my advice to him with that, is to say that I don't expect a fully fledged, ironed out, fully discussed ordinance in the near future. I thought that was ambitious.
I believe there is some ordinances in there that touch on that as far as structures. They don't, at the inception of this ordinance, cargo containers of such weren't really
A thing?
you know.
Yeah.
But it does address, I believe,
Along with junk cars.
yeah, it does address types of buildings, where they can place them, what they must look like, and there's some regulations in there, and I don't remember which one it was in the golden box there. Because usually when you're rifling through looking for junk cars or that type of stuff, you run into stuff and you go, okay, that's good to know, and keep going. And it just kind of, but there's some stuff in there that pertains to that kind of touches base on that.
So I know there is a site being prepared for
Right.
such a container right now,
I
which
think-
is why this gentleman, I think, talked to us this morning.
When do we need to have this?
I'm
Because
guessing
we're-
in the next couple days.
Okay.
If you want to know the truth. And I'm thankful you remembered that. I didn't write it down on the agenda.
Well, we're not gonna be able to do anything here tonight because it wasn't on the agenda, and the auditor has made that clear that they don't like that. Second of all, we won't have legal counsel that would probably be able to help us until right after that. So I guess what we can say is this: if the timeline is that accelerated, then I think we would need to have a special meeting to switch our legal counsel and to have our new legal counsel draft a moratorium and to vote it in the next couple days. Because with our regularly scheduled meeting, I don't think, given what's on agendas and knots and the switches that have to happen before that, I don't think we're prepared to be able to even draft anything to vote on until some of these prerequisites are out of the way.
It would be May 11th, 2 weeks from today.
The next
Next
meeting?
scheduled meeting.
And I agree with Councilman Hardy. I think legal should have this because it could be potentially legal
Somebody's gonna come after you for it.
issues.
Well, and the other thing that you might have to consider is that it might not be legal, or our potential new council may not want to do any work before we have officially made the change. So that means that we couldn't potentially, and maybe he said, I don't care, we can start contracting my services now and you can make the official switch over later. Maybe that'll be the case. But if he says to you guys, I'm not gonna work with you until you officially let go of your previous council, which I could see an argument for that, then that means that we cannot get anything drafted until we have done that vote. So there's a sequence of things that would need to happen in order to get this where it would need to go. So maybe when you ask him about his retainer potential, ask him on the same call, could he draft a moratorium for us before we have officially voted him in as our council? And if the answer to that is yes, it would at least open up the potential to vote on both of those things at the same time in a regular meeting or a special meeting.
Well, the only concern I have, excuse me, is we have some that's been allowed here. I smell a lawsuit or potential one.
One right down the road here on
Yes.
3rd.
A potential, that's it. Give anybody
My-
ideas, but I
Yeah.
put myself in that position. I see
Mhm.
all the sides here. That's why the league, I mean,
Right.
I'd be real, tread
Very
carefully
lightly.
what we say.
My thought is there, since our building permits and what have you are already administered by the county for this town, should we not be checking with them to make sure that they already don't have some sort of,
They might, but our city laws, ordinance, and I would, whoever has time to go kind of look in there and find that, it's in that box over there, and see what it says. Refresh, I can't remember verbatim what it was, but it addressed, I think it was building, there was building zoning. There was quite extensive that I didn't want to read, personally, but
Big structure.
that would kind of maybe, that we have in place right now.
I mean, it's a steel box that you dump on the.
oh, I understand completely what it is. I'm just saying,
No,
some
I know.
people can turn it into a structure.
If
Other
it's
people will
permanent-
say it's a storage
Yeah,
unit
if
and
it's
it's not
permanent or
permanent.
temporary, I mean, all those things have to be defined. There's a lot of groundwork.
That's what I'm saying.
What we've discovered around here with stuff like that, nothing is temporary.
I have
That's just
I have
the
a
way it
client
is.
that leases those out.
Right.
And he drops them off, and sometimes they're there for years, and then he picks them up and he takes them back. Other people he sells them to. So, depending on the intent, and I mean, that a site is being prepped for, to me would indicate that it is not a temporary situation.
Nope.
Now, that I know of other cities, towns, and companies, actually, that go around and take something, which is an eyesore like that to people, and they're allowed if they're, put lipstick on it,
Right.
Sort of, lack of better terminology, but they kind of doll it up to where it's not such a sore thumb.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, there's,
I would advise that it would probably be a wise thing to have Jerry make a notification to that citizen if possible. I don't know if we have contact information for them, given their situation, but if we do know a way to contacting them, it would be good to advise them that the city has discussed the possibility, just because whatever frustration they will have will probably be made worse the closer to the installation of that they think they are. And if they don't know that the city council is even thinking about,
They roll up with it and find out they can't put it there. They're gonna be a little unhappy.
Well, not only that, but the person who's gonna look at it is going to be less than happy with,
Us?
as I told him today, that's the council.
Don't paint the target on you.
no, it's the council.
Yep, it's true.
Shipping container isn't a permanent structure. You move it,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
so you have to put it in, it's gotta be permanent structure.
that's where those, in that little box with that ordinance,
That box there?
yeah.
well, all the ordinances, those are resolutions.
They're over
Yeah.
there.
Yep.
Your facial expression said it all right there.
Trying to build an index.
Oh, yeah.
So you're thinking we should write a letter to the person who's going to install it, or the person who was concerned about,
No, to the person who's gonna install it.
okay?
I don't think you can represent any intent. I think just simply notifying them, even that you may want to listen to the recording of this meeting. That's all we have. The council has not really expressed an intent at this point. But I think them knowing what has been discussed here could be valuable to them.
I see, sorry. Go ahead. My only question is a caution, we have people on city property that have them, and seeing this, how, they're gonna view this as intrusive favoritism,
Mm-hmm.
all sorts of stuff. I mean, I can look at that all ways. I mean, you may not like the neighbor's house. It might be a hideous color, and I mean, so I mean, there's a lot more here that I think legally we need to check into.
I think you're
before
right. I think it's a
I
bad,
wouldn't tip our hand, promise anybody at this point anything.
And that's my,
Yeah.
I don't think, like I said, there is no intent to express at this point. Just merely a notification of the discussion, I think. Cause I would agree, David, I think there are a number of concerns.
Can you think of more than one of those?
Concerns or containers?
Containers. I only know
There's
one.
one-
It's on Third Avenue.
And there's two on Third. There's one right next to the single wide trailer. There are at least one or two behind the house across the street from them as well.
There's one by the water tank too.
Yep.
Right there.
On
Oh,
West
Tim's.
Coombs.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
I'm sure it's occurred to everybody, but if somebody either installs or contracts to have installed a shipping container before we have
That's what I was talking about.
Well, it just dawned on me.
a law in place,
Is it going
they
on?
may be grandfathered in.
It's still there?
Well, a
As far as I
moratorium
know,
would
it's
not
still there.
necessarily mandate any removal of any existing ones.
Just put a halt to it
It
for the
would
time
just say
being.
that there would be no new ones installed for a certain period of time.
Did Tyler James ask to put a shipping container on his property?
Don't know the answer to that question.
It's right down
Well,
there.
one time, whomever it was wanted to put one up at the cemetery.
To
That was
replace the shed?
discussed, the Lions Club discussed that along with a lot of different other options.
I
It
know.
never
Were
got
they going
very
to put
serious.
windows in as lipstick?
If you go on the website or on Google or whatever and look at those things, you'd be amazed what they can do to those to make them
Absolutely.
look.
There was quite a,
Right.
say this, there was quite a bit of vocal feedback to the Lions Club about entertaining that idea.
I know.
But yeah, they stack them up and
I
make
shouldn't have brought
homes
that
out
up.
of them.
No, not pouring salt into it.
FEMA's even experimented with turning those into temporary housing in emergency situations.
The military housing.
Whole communities.
Throw it on a train as it goes by and.
Stack
We have
them.
time for one more item.
The people or the containers?
Go ahead.
As far as I'm concerned, we do, Peter.
The city council was hosted by the Elks Club on the 11th of March. Did any of us write a thank you note to them?
Lions Club.
Lions Club.
Lions Club, did I say? I
You
said
said
that.
Elks.
Oh, I'm rattled.
Predator versus prey.
Lions Club, did the city write a thank you note to them?
Not that I know of.
Because they hosted us.
Yes, they did.
Well, we're listening.
I did not. There were lots of thank yous abounded at the scene, but I have not formally written a letter of thanks.
Thank you.
Yep.
Since the mayor was invited, the most senior member of the government, might be his pleasure to do that.
Solely noted.
Okay. I'd be happy to work on that with you.
Okay?
Has, going back to the container real quick, the people that wanna put it in, was there any inquiry with the city to Jerry in particular about zoning, for one?
No clue.
So nobody's-
This is the first I'm hearing it.
Permit or zoning, nothing was checked on that then?
And I'm sure Lincoln County's got something on it,
Okay.
but I haven't looked that up yet. This is the first I've heard of it.
So that would be Courtney?
Did you ask about that?
In Lincoln County?
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't she the building
Yeah,
permit
right. Yeah,
person?
I believe so.
Sure.
Yeah, I think she's the permit inspector, so.
Even if you need one, but the land usage and all that stuff, that would be our responsibility,
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm curious as to what that's even zoned for.
right? That's what our,
I
Right.
think
box.
that's probably residential up there, but
Mm-hmm. Well, because that opens it. Well, never mind. I'm not even gonna go there right now.
Here we go,
Hey.
classify containers as
Commercial?
and then you can't put them on residential lot.
He said it, not me.
Okay.
Consult with our new attorney maybe.
You're not an attorney, but you play one on council meetings tomorrow.
Just from, I
For
think,
free.
unless I'm mistaken, I think she's planning, not building inspector though.
She is land services, is her title.
Even if she's not, she would be able to steer you in the right direction.
That is true statement there. Yes.
Okay. Is it public then?
I think it's,
Stan's been awful quiet.
I'd move to adjourn.
I think we're still in public comments.
I'm not hearing any public comments.
no. So it's been moved.
My motion's
by-
on the table, or on the floor.
There's been a motion made by Councilman Shank to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Seconded by Peter. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Well, I'll say aye.
Okay.
No, I'm not opposed. I just,
Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, David.
why does it feel later than it is? Really?
What time is it?
It does feel late,
It
because
feels
I've
like
been here
midnight.
since
55,
dark 30 this
9:50.
morning, that's why.
8:55.
I was gonna say 9:55?
8:55, yeah.
Okay, that's not too terrible.
Yeah, 9:55.
So thank